Hi, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Nick.
And we are Working Class Nerds.
We're the podcast that gives you no information about your favorite information.
Today is Thoughtful Thursday, October 4th, 2018. You can find this thoughtful podcast on Google Play, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Man, that's starting to be a mouthful.
I know.
You can find me on Twitter. I am at MarcusB814.
And I am at Nick Vern. That's NickVern. And this week's episode, we'll be discussing the upcoming release of Legends of Aria with project lead Derek Brinkman. Hey, Derek. Thanks for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to lately.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I call myself the project lead for Legends of Aria. I basically left Electronic Arts back in 2013 to start this company to build this game. It started out as Shards Online. We kickstarted it 2014 and got a bit of a head start there as far as funding. We've managed to stay 100% crowdfunded this entire time. We have no big investors or fancy publishers. So it's kind of, it makes it really cool to kind of, the boss is our customer, right? Like the people who have helped us get to where we are the ones that are, helping us make sure that we're staying honest and making the game and the product that they want to play.
Wow, so that's cool.
It's a lot of fun. And today's actually a really big day for us because we announced our early access launch date. The date will be December 4th, which is exactly 2 months from today.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal because, like I said, we've been working on the project I've been working on it for 5 years. It's been announced for 4. And it's just great to finally be ready to open it up to a wider audience. And I'm sure you guys know with MMOs, once you do that final character wipe, that's when the game really starts.
Right.
So everything up to this point has just been testing.
Right.
So the December 4th is like, now we have a game, So I'd say that's probably what's most exciting about it is just the fact that we're actually beginning the story of this game on that day.
Right. Well, first of all, congratulations, because that's, finally getting to that point, because I didn't know you guys were just got started in 2014. For me, when I think of a video game, I'm just like, oh, they make it a year later, it comes out,
boom, done.
Boom, done. It's, it doesn't take that long, but little do we know,
sure.
It takes years to accomplish this. And the hardest thing is, for me to understand about game development, because I don't know anything about it, is, you see these games and how hard it is, because when you're doing the game 4 years in advance, the graphic quality is here. But when you want it to be released, you want the graphics to be
up to date.
Up to date. So the struggle of that has got to be.
We've been through several graphics overhauls of the game, and also we started. We had a fairly limited budget, so in the beginning the graphics were quote unquote retro,
Sure.
And so every graphics overhaul we did got us one step closer to looking like a modern game.
Right.
So yeah, it's actually really cool. It's quite a process. If we were just making something like Candy Crush, sure, we'd be done in 6 months to a year. But you're building an MMO with a massive world where, all these players can play these different roles and play the game in completely different ways. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
And that's when you find the bugs, when all of us get into the game and start doing odds and ends. You're like, well, I never thought somebody would actually do that.
Especially in a game like Legends of Aria, because we do try to limit the number of restrictions on players. We allow players to attack each other. We allow, free communication between you and your enemy and stuff like that. So it does definitely open up the doors for a lot more of those crazy bugs, especially, the world itself is built like a world simulation, much more than a lot of other online games.
Mm-hmm.
When designers design most MMOs, they have this set of content that they want players to go through, and then the programmers build this world around the programmers and the artists build the world around what they want the player to experience.
Right.
Where with our game, we actually start, it's kind of like a backwards approach where we just build a world first, and then we create the things for players to do in that world. So what ends up happening is there's so many things in that world that you can just stumble on or figure out a way to do something with it that we didn't even intend. And so, we get some really interesting bugs with that kind of thing.
I'm sure you do. Well, great. I can't wait to get into this some more in a few minutes.
Sure.
So, Nick, what have you been up to this week?
Quite a bit of stuff. Not quite such a heavy gaming week as I had last episode. But after our live recording, I went to Boston with Mariana, which is my girlfriend. She's the best girlfriend ever.
How many times? You don't need to say she's the best girlfriend ever because everybody knows.
Well, I got to say it every time. It's tradition now.
All right, tradition.
There's a precedent that's been set. We had a great time, needless to say. We stayed at the South Shore, made a pit stop at the Trillium Beer Garden as we were walking around, hit up Quincy Market, ended up meeting up with my sister Ariel and friend of the podcast for a cannoli at Modern Pastry. And I just want to say, as a quick sidebar, for anyone that's, might be going to Boston, don't go to Mike's Pastry. It's a complete and utter tourist trap.
Bullshit. That's the greatest cannoli ever.
No,
no, you're wrong.
I'm a complete and utter Modern Pastry guy. Mike's Pastry is complete bullshit, in my opinion.
Dude, there's nothing like walking out of Brico after having a nice steak dinner with your wife or girlfriend, and you walk to Mike's Pastry, have a cannoli, and then you get your Uber back to your car and you go home.
See, I went Brico and then Modern Pastry, and then I hit up a show. I caught Raunch at Improv Asylum, which is their improv show at midnight where the cast of the show is drinking right alongside you, which is pretty fun. And then I got the Uber home.
You guys are definitely from Boston.
Well, actually, so
Modern Pastry guy is not a thing that people in Virginia say.
Yeah, Modern Pastry. Well, I say Mike's Pastry, but that's all right.
It's clearly a subject for hot debate.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that going in. That's why
That's
I set it
funny.
up like that. But the north end of Boston is like an old Italian section. So those are the two Italian pastry places, obviously.
And we're about an hour and 15 minutes away from Boston.
Right. Without traffic. On average, it's probably like an hour and a half, hour 45, depending on or 3 hours, depending on how bad the traffic is.
The traffic does suck.
So, all right. Yeah. In gaming news, I've been playing, my staple games. I'm about 40% of the way through Spider-Man. I'm loving every second of that. That's an excellent game. I really like that a lot. Played a little bit of Siege as well. So I've been trying to play that new Operator Maverick, and I'm sucking at it. So like he's the guy that has the blowtorch, and you can cut holes through reinforced walls, but the holes come out like I don't know. It says like the diameter of like a softball. So like you can make little holes to shoot through, or you can make a sort of draw a bigger opening in the wall and then walk through it. But every time I make a hole and then try to shoot through it, like somebody just shoot, or if I'm trying to make a walking hole, like draw a bigger one, someone just shoots me through the smaller hole, like from the other side. So I'm not stealthy with it at all. I'm just terrible at it. I'm trying to get the hang of it and failing miserably, basically.
Well, anytime there's a new character or a new game, there's always that learning curve.
Yeah.
Always. It's like I tell everybody's my friend Tom, he says, I'm going to get a PC and start PC gaming. I was like, it's a month-long stress of learning how to keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
That first month is awful.
I remember doing that with Fallout.
Yeah.
Which was pretty forgiving because they have the VATS system.
Yeah.
But let's see, what else? Oh, so before we move on to what Marcus has been up to, I just gotta another quick sidebar. I am wicked pumped for the new Dragon Ball Super movie. See, I added this little note later. Marcus is shaking his head. I saw that a second trailer leaked today, and I just can't wait for January. It's got like the whole backstory on Frieza conquering Planet Vegeta and stuff like that. It looks absolutely awesome.
Is this live action or what?
No, this is animated. It's a new. Okay. They came out with a new Dragon Ball series, Dragon Ball Super, and it continues on from where Dragon Ball Z left off.
Right.
And then this is a movie that's sort of after Super.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. Anyways, I'm just a big old nerd over here.
Wait, I just don't understand it. The whole movie, Frieza's going to be standing there powering up to kill a bunch of people. That's the whole show. Every time I watch it, there's all you see is one dude just standing there. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, what will he do? We'll be right back. Find out next episode of
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes.
Anyway,
back at the ranch, Marcus, how's life been treating you? Has anything scary happened to you this week?
Yes. So I had a crazy, crazy scare at work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working. So we just opened up this wall, and the wall is 9 feet long by 8 feet tall. It's completely open to the customer's house. Like I'm standing on their floor, touching sheetrock, like their couch is, 6 feet away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I get down off the ladder, grabbing, I don't even remember. And all of a sudden I get this crazy sharp pain in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like keel over, grab it, and one of the guys that works for him, he's like, hey, are you all right? Hey, are you all right? And I couldn't answer him.
Yeah.
So for like 50 seconds, I could hear him, but I couldn't respond because I was in so much pain. And, I cut myself every day, and I'm the biggest wuss when it comes to pain ever, but like this was real pain. And I thought I was having a heart attack, and it ended and my chest still hurt, but I had a giant hole in the wall. And people listening are probably going to be like, why the fuck wouldn't you have left and gone to the hospital right now?
Right.
And I want you to stop before you judge me for working the rest of the day.
Right.
And say, what would you say if I say I have to go to the hospital? I just think I'm having a heart attack, but I'm going to leave a gaping hole in your house, and it's supposed to rain later.
Yeah, 9 feet by 6 feet.
No, 9 feet by 8 feet.
Okay, 9 feet by even bigger.
72 square feet, wide open to the elements. What would you say? You would be like,
can you hang a tarp or something?
Yeah, exactly. So I finished working the day, went to the hospital, was there for a day or like all night. It was awful.
Like 12 hours.
Basically.
I mean,
they basically told me I have a virus in my lungs or some bullshit like that. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm okay. They're still doing tests. I still feel like shit, but moving on. I'm working and continuing to do what I'm doing. In bigger fucking news, my kitchen is functional.
Okay. You can't. I thought I put the note in there so that you'd see it. You can't just leave that whole that Death Star reference hanging there.
Oh,
how can you not say the kitchen is fully operational? And it's because
it's not completely done. The trim's not done. The painting isn't done, but the stove works, the microwave works, the refrigerator works, the dishwasher works. And mind you, what's the date today? I have 13 fucking days until the baby comes.
That's true. No, but I just meant isn't that quote it's fully operational when it's the second Death Star and it's like half done.
Yeah,
but it still can kill stuff.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, I failed.
Yeah, thanks.
Miserably. All right. I ruined it. Okay. Anyway, gaming news. I started to play Rise of the Tomb Raider. I was going to play it on my PS4 Pro just because I wanted to kind of lean back in a chair with a controller. Mm-hmm. But I bought it. Steam is awesome. Derek, I'm sure you've fallen into the Steam trap many times as well. Mm-hmm. Steam sales are the worst.
Yeah, the best.
No, they're the worst.
I own quite a few games I've never played.
Yeah, so, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20th edition, Christmas of, 2017. Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, it's $10.
Right.
I'm buying this goddamn game. So I buy it, and it's just sitting there, cobwebs growing on it digitally, and I'm just like, ugh. And then the new game comes out, and I'm like, I really want to play this game. And Nick was like, you can't play it until you play the second one, because I played the first one. And he's like, no, you have to play it in order. So I started to play it, played like 45 minutes, but then I guess I'm just an MMO player.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Like, I like one game, get settled in the game, get another game that you play part-time and enjoy. But, I'm a one-game kind of guy. Yeah. Almost like a one-track mind.
Yeah, you like having, and I'm the same way. You like having one game that you come back to, and then like a second sort of side hoe type of game.
Yep. So in my week of gaming, other than that, in SOTOR, I did a bunch of ops. We did Dread Fortress. I got to see my favorite friend Brontes. We did Scum and Villainy with Dent. So it was a mega speed run. We probably did it in an hour and 15 minutes.
That's fast.
Yeah. I got to catch my breath here. Something else with the baby coming. Sad news, want. Last night was my last night running with my Wednesday night ops team. Taking a break, kind of maybe a personal leave.
Yeah, like a retirement from the Wednesday night team, basically.
Yeah, I might go back later. They say I'll be back in 3 weeks. They say I'm not going to be able to stay away. But I think I need to, just because the baby's coming and I don't know what.
Yeah, how much extra time you're going to have.
I don't have a clue what's coming.
Right. Yeah, second kid can be totally different than the first one.
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, Fun Feeling Monday, we did EV with 7 people. It's great. If you want to have some fun, come join us for the fun every Monday from 9 to 11 p.m. on the Starforge server with the Bad Feeling peeps. We did, since our last episode, we did our September episode of Mega, the monthly epic group activities with the AIE Guild. We did pod racing around the fleet. It was a lot of fun. We had judges at the 4 points. We gave away some cool title. So we basically made like guild notes. So like when somebody signs into the guild window and the winner was like the Mega Pod Racer 2018. So now every time that tune is in, people see it. They see, oh shit, he won the Mega event.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because when you do like prizes,
yeah,
somebody's always butthurt.
Right.
Oh, we're going to give away this awesome X. Oh, but this guy died to be able to cheat to get to this spot. Well, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You can't
please everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after that, this was probably the most fun. What's the first thing you think of when you think of Tatooine?
Sand.
All right.
2 cents.
I think the Sarlacc pit.
Oh, me too.
All right,
so like third. Sorry.
All right, so
I screwed up your joke here.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So I had everybody zone into this one spot, and we did a race to the Sarlacc pit. First one to jump into the bottom, got a free sub code.
That's sweet.
Yeah, which was awesome.
30-day sub code.
Yeah, I think it was
or 10 or something.
30-day.
Some good sub code. Who cares? It's free stuff.
Maybe it was cartel coins. I don't even know.
Yeah,
whatever. It was awesome. Either way, last Thursday we did our second episode of Psych Talk with Dr. Sotor. So I've created a Sith sorcerer, and he's molded after me. And as we all know, Dr. Sotor is a doctor of psychology. So he has like personality traits on the stream, and we live stream this, and it's pretty awesome to see how, like all of my answers
affect
my personality test.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was SOTOR Unite is coming November 10th at 9 p.m. We're running 16-man gods from the machine. Dr. Sotor and I have united all the podcasters for Star Wars The Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of tied everybody together and brought all the podcasters together. And we're going to do a 16-man raid or operation, if you don't know what ops are, in SOTOR.
Perfect.
In SOTOR news.
So we have a new update from Eric that says, hey, folks, good question. This is in response to one of the forum posts.
Yep.
Discussion about 5.10 will begin in earnest with our Cantina live stream on October 11th. That entire stream will be dedicated to talking about 5.10 content, systems changes, PTS plans, etc. I expect it will be an hour long or more, and we have a lot to cover. Maybe a little quiet between now and then, but we aren't too far from more info.
And in response to the Cantina being canceled in New York for Comic-Con this weekend,
mm-hmm.
I guess I'm sure everybody's heard about it, the Madden shooting.
Oh,
there was that Madden tournament, and that's an EA thing.
Right.
So because they had this mass shooting, which is awful, why would anybody I don't know, whatever. Anyway.
The person has mental illness, clearly. But anyways, we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, so in response to that,
mm-hmm.
anything because Star Wars The Old Republic is an EA game, and EA sucks the lifeblood out of everybody.
Yep. Including Derek, apparently.
Yep. That's why he left. And so they
canceled it.
Well, they basically said until they have safety protocols for all of the all their events and figure out how they can, kind of move forward. And I understand that you want everybody, no matter how big or small your game is, they want everybody to be safe so this shit doesn't happen.
Sure. Probably want standard policy to be put in place for safety protocols at big events or something.
I guess. I don't know. Or I just blame it on money. I just say there wasn't enough money, so they used that as an excuse to say, why are we going to spend thousands of dollars to do this event and fly people here to New York and do all those things when we can do this?
Yeah.
So 5.9.3 dropped Tuesday. Let's discuss a few of the changes, Nick.
Sure. So under the highlights category, they say the Galaxy's favorite spot is back in an all-new venue.
Sport.
Oh, sport.
Sport.
Sorry. I can't read sometimes. The Galaxy's favorite sport is back in an all-new venue. The Sky Shredder, located on the scenic world of Vandit. Huttball fanatics can look forward to new and deadlier challenges as they battle for victory. Based on a survey of Hutt cartel members and staff, visibility may vary depending on viewers' species. Some breathing restrictions apply. That's interesting. Earn XP, CXP, and more come from October 9th to October 6th.
Next week.
Very nice. Under General, they have free-to-play players can now chat freely in groups and guilds. I think it's this gray font.
Probably. So being able to talk in, if you're free to play, Like they should give you should be able to chat with people.
Yeah, I
that's
think
fucking stupid.
that it was. Yeah, that's weird that they didn't have that off the get-go.
I don't know.
But anyways, also under general, it says the rooftop garden on the Manan stronghold is no longer Manan. The rooftop garden on the Manan stronghold is no longer inaccessible in some situations. Also, ranked and in-ranked war zones now have separate queue buttons inside of the activity finder. Players can once again enter the PvP arenas of Ilium as a group. All large hooks are once again selectable on the Sky Carrier main deck of the Rishi Stronghold. The overlook inside the Rishi Stronghold has returned to its normal pricing of 1.5 million credits.
I wonder how much it was before. Hopefully it was less.
Yeah, or more. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Characters that use a server transfer will have their solo and group rating reset if they're above 1200 rating. I don't know what that's about either.
PvP.
Okay. A small yield target for Conquest is now 170,000, which is down from 200,000.
So that basically, they're helping out the smaller guilds so they can hit the small target.
Oh, I see.
Because, it takes a lot of work to hit Conquest.
Got it.
There's a bunch of classes and combat changes, blah, blah.
We don't have to go through all that.
Yep, but here's what I care about in the Operations tab.
So the Ravengers. Players can no longer avoid dying to Ravager Electro Pulse Nova by using /stuck during the Blaster and Master encounter. Blaster will always lose his invulnerability shield after Master arrives as intended.
Huh. Well, that's good.
And changes to Gods from the Machine.
Yes.
Even though Isaacs is a machine, he will no longer sometimes show debug text.
Huh.
Okay. That's interesting.
Hey, Derek, how do you fix that problem?
Yeah, those are those things you just need to comment out a single line and it goes away.
Yeah.
Also from Gods from the Machine,
Avela and Esne.
Avela and Esne will no longer apply the positive polarization debuff in story and veteran mode.
So basically, they're releasing a master mode, which is the nightmare mode.
Okay.
For this op, and as they were doing it, Derek, you can probably understand this a little better. So they're integrating a harder content into the game, and when they originally made this raid/operation, they never intended to have the nightmare version of it made.
Right.
So they're bringing it into the game before. So a lot of the mechanics from the hardest content were bleeding into the story, and so
the
like
regular
regular mode and hard mode of it. Do you understand what that happens?
It seems kind of strange, but I guess I could get the idea of it. It's like content that they made for the harder mode just didn't get disabled in the easy modes, right?
Basically. Yeah,
right.
They put it into the easy mode because they didn't intend to make the harder mode, and now that they are making it, they're sort of taking it out of the easy mode and keeping
it wasn't supposed to be there,
right?
And they just couldn't, either way.
Just overlooking on the content dev part.
Sure. So other than that, that's pretty much what's going on in the game. It's pretty much just everything else.
Little fixes, here and there.
So I'm really excited to talk about Legends of Aria.
Let's do it.
So I got to play a small demo of the game at PAX East back in March.
I believe that was closed beta 1.
Okay. Well, I didn't. I mean, I think I got to play it for 5 minutes. You were over my shoulder just talking about it. I got to run around.
Yeah.
There wasn't an MMO. You need an hour to play it.
Right. Yeah, you can't really sink your teeth into something in just a PAX demo. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, absolutely. But I got to run around. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to hear the little soundbite that Derek gave us, you can listen back at episode 10, Gummy Power. We broke down PAX East, and we had Brian from the Bad Feeling podcast on. And then,
that was fun.
And so I've been watching this game as much as I could. I signed up right away for the emails. I was hoping to be able to get into the beta.
Yeah.
Because but I was on vacation that week. Of all the weeks you did this, I should have emailed you and said, dude, wait a week for the beta, just for me.
Yeah, that's true. We get that a lot. Actually, some guy, one of our core community members, when we announced the date for Steam Early Access, he's like, I'm getting married that week.
Oh,
sorry, dude.
Yeah, sorry, bro. So we're going to break this down, but Nick, do you want to take a quick break?
Yes, as per usual, I have to pee again.
All right, let's do it.
We'll be right back. And we're back. So today we're discussing Legends of Aria. Marcus got to sit down and play, and I watch over his shoulder. A small demo at PAX East back in March, like we said before. We really liked what we saw there, and Derek has graciously agreed to come on and talk about the game's progress and the upcoming early access on December 4th. So Derek, for the people who don't know, tell us what Legends of Aria is all about.
What is Legends of Aria? So one of the things we joke about on the team is we're putting the RP back in MMORPG, which is like we would never use that as our tagline, but it does actually kind of make a lot of sense when we talk about the game.
Sure.
We spent a lot of time leading up to this announcement trying to figure out how do we explain to a player what makes this game so special. Our trailer's a minute and a half long. And it's extremely difficult because it is not a story that you go through from A to B. It is not some sort of guided content experience, right? I mean, it is you live in this virtual world. And the problem is, in a way, in all those other games that are very heavily guided and handholdy and theme parky, you are living in a virtual world there too, but in such a different way. So when we just say, oh, well, you get to live in this virtual world and it's really cool, they go, well, yeah, I do that in every MMO. And we say, no, you actually don't, because in those other MMOs, it's not like a true simulation, right? We kind of build the world with building blocks. You know what I mean? Like you start with the grass, then you put some deer in it, and then you throw a building on it, and then so the world kind of like arises out of this kind of blank slate much more organically than, we'll say Star Wars: The Old Republic, for example. They started with a set of design documents, right? And they said, okay, here's the systems that we need in order to make this the game that we want everybody to play. And they figure out, okay, well, let's build the game so that it does these things. Whereas we go, okay, how do you make a world? What's in a world? There's deer. Okay, there's a guy who sells arrows. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's a completely different approach to game development, and it comes out in such a really unique way. And the only way to really get that feeling is to just sit down and play it.
Can I just say that at PAX, I did kill a fucking deer. That thing died. It died very fast, and then I ate it. Well, I consumed the meat.
Right. Yeah.
That's something I remember very vividly.
It was very important to Marcus.
Yeah, Sorry about that.
Definitely the quintessential newbie experience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The game is telling me I'm hungry. What do I do? Okay.
Exactly.
So anyway, the way we figured it out was one of the key differences between this game and other MMOs is that players actually do take on roles that are purely choices that they make. And when I say a choice, it's not like a character selection. You pick this role. It's I go into the game and I say, well, what do I want to do? Well, I want to protect people from murderers. Okay, well, then you go get yourself some armor and stand outside the newbie graveyard and kill anybody that tries to hurt the newbies, right?
That's cool.
Well, that's like a really simple kind of oversimplified example. But, we identified a bunch of just like roles that we came up with that we know for a fact will be a thing in the game. And we actually made these little like 20-second long videos for each one. And on our website, there's a little section called What Role Will You Play? It's right on the front page. And there are all these little videos. And so you have the hero, which is the one I just described. You have the adventurer, which is obviously, going into dungeons and getting the rare loot for sale or for your own use. The crafter, which is another one you see in other games. But kind of the difference here is that most games, you choose a class and then you might take on a crafting skill, and you kind of need to be a certain level in order to harvest the items in order to craft the higher end stuff, right?
Yeah.
In our game, if you're a miner, you could literally just live in the mines. You know what I mean? You bring your horse with a saddlebag and you load it up with ore and you take it out of the mine, and maybe you smelt it yourself or maybe you sell it to a blacksmith. But the idea is that that's like actually a trade. It's like it's actually like a whole lifestyle that you live, rather than just like, oh, this is a crafting select. This is what I'm going to choose for my crafting skill. And actually, because the way our game is based with skills, the way our game is set up with, you have 600 skill points that you can work with. If you're going to be a combat character, you're probably not going to take a harvesting or crafting skill, because those are precious points that you could be using for something that makes you a better warrior or a better mage.
Right.
So, the crafters are kind of career crafters. Now, of course, if you want to do both, you just kind of have two characters, right? But that also means it's much more realistic in the sense that if I am a miner and I want to go to the unprotected, there's an area called the wilderness where, I think we're calling it the wilderness. We've changed the names recently. But I'm going out in this area where there is no protection and somebody can just kill me. I may need some of my friends to play their combat characters to go with me to kind of escort me. I mean, there's not many games that have that sort of thing. I know EVE Online has that kind of thing going on there where people do those like the mining operations and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like, that's why when we say, oh, you can be a crafter, and people go, well, I can be a crafter in other MMOs. It's like, it's completely different. It's a completely different experience in this game.
When you say the wilderness, do you mean that's going to be the open PvP area?
Yes, but it's not open. We have a very, very complex, it's complex under the hood, but we try to make it, we make it pretty simple to the end user. But what it does is it basically penalizes you for performing bad actions and rewards you for doing good things, right? So, and that system is very much in effect everywhere. So if somebody kills you and you are, we call them a blue player, an innocent player, they're going to be penalized for it, and they will eventually become an outcast, not even be able to go into towns. And outcasts can't cast teleportation or use any teleportation magic at all. So it's a really big restriction that, if you're choosing to be an outcast, you're choosing a very hard life,
Okay.
So it's not full unrestricted PvP like in World of Warcraft and a PvP server where you just get ganked for no reason and there's no penalty for that guy for doing it, right? We actually have some sort of system that kind of tries to keep people honest. And there's like a middle ground, right? So you have the innocents on one end, you have the outcasts way on the other end that are not even allowed in town. And in the middle, you have these chaotic players. And a chaotic player may attack innocent players from time to time, but if they kill them, they'll probably turn outcasts. So chances are they're not going to do that. They're going to fight other chaotic players. Or if an innocent player attacks them, then that kind of starts this engagement where the two people can fight each other. So it's kind of an interesting system that allows for consensual PvP, but it's not just like a flag that you turn on in some games. Like it's really kind of cheesy. You just say, okay, I'm flagging for PvP, right? Like it's more of your choices in terms of whether you do bad things to other people decide where you fall in this scale of like innocent to chaos to outcast.
I like it a lot. That sounds really cool.
It's in certain implementations of it have existed in other games, like Ultima Online had a criminal system. And what we tried to do when we designed this was we looked at the vulnerability or the issues, kind of the things that people used to take advantage of with those systems, and we tried to address those. Mm-hmm. And so our system is definitely different from like the Ultima Online criminal system. I think Lineage had a criminal system in it. Black Desert Online, I believe, has one. But so we've looked at all those designs and we've tried to come up with something that kind of it almost resembles more the EVE Online system with the security status, where you can be like really bad security level, right? And you're not allowed in the towns and stuff. So
for me, it always worries me when somebody can just walk up to me and kill me. But I'm that crazy like PvE player that just like likes to mind my own business. Yeah. And I would be the guy that would probably be the blacksmith or the wood guy, the guy making all the like the wooden handles for all the people's axes.
Right.
Just minding my own business, and then some guy comes and kills me because I got the handle he wants and he doesn't want to pay me for it.
Right.
A fairly large percentage of the map is what we call a guarded area. And in the guarded area, if you are blue, you just can't be attacked.
That's good.
And so even though we try to remove restrictions on how players interact with each other, sometimes we just have to put a little bit of a barrier in place to allow people to play the game the way they want. Right. Because at the end of the day, we are not making a PvP game, and we want to make sure that this is a game for anybody who wants to be a role player and not just people who say like, I want to like, and I don't mean role play like running around talking in old English, right? Like you don't have to do that. But you at least get to like play out. You can do that. I mean, that's great, right? I mean, I think it's awesome. And I think a lot of people will probably, and I mean, that's when we start talking about community servers where you get like the hardcore RP servers. But I mean, that's like a whole nother topic. But the point is that even as a regular player in Legends of Aria, you kind of are forced to play a role because that's how you make money, right? Like, am I going to make money by, adventuring, or am I going to go make money by hunting treasure and digging up treasure chests, right? Like, so So you kind of pick a role just by like, this is my career. This is how I make money. This is how I afford to buy a house and how I afford to have nice things, that kind of thing. So
get married, have kids.
Yeah.
Sounds like something else I know. Oh, real life.
Yeah.
They're a lot more fun because you get to kill monsters and stuff.
I was just going to say that, but that's what makes this so intriguing is because you want to be taken out of your real life. And, maybe you're a carpenter and always wanted to be a
carpenter or
a doctor.
Sure.
Or, an herbist who makes medicine,
sure.
And now you can do that in the game. So it's like you can adapt to that. And it's almost like what Star Wars Galaxies did back.
Right. It's very similar. Yeah. Very similar to Star Wars Galaxies.
This is great. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of the game,
sure.
the lore? Like when does this take place? Stuff like that.
So, as far as like as you're adventuring through the world, the story is fairly light in the sense that like Aria is very much a blank slate, and the players that populate it are the ones that are going to be making the stories, like the great wars between guilds and the holy warriors who kind of parade through town looking for the other side. The big player markets of certain guilds that are just going to be known to have like really super rare items that are really expensive. Like the stories are going to come out of the players' interactions with each other. That being said, there does have to be a reason for the world. Like, where did the world come from, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's this whole story of, it's very heavily focused on, like, the kind of multiple gods. Like, there's Lily and Eve, which are the original creator gods, and they like to create these worlds, and they're trying to find a race that can achieve immortality and kind of ascend beyond them and eventually destroy them, right? Because they're just bored. When you're immortal, you just kind of get bored, and what they decided to do was find they don't want to commit suicide, but they kind of want to create these races that maybe one day one of them will like rise up and kill them. Right. So there's like this big kind of crazy thing happening there where they created this world, Aria. It was a massive, beautiful, amazing world. And the humans were kind of this one race that were very well known for achieving immortality and getting close to immortality. So the Aria had humans, and the humans started to get very close to it. It's a really long thing, and it kind of gets, but it's there, right? I mean, that's all kind of in the undertones and in the kind of the backstory of the different towns. But like I said, we keep it very light because when you're indie, you need to basically play to your strengths. For us to try and say, okay, we're going to have rich and luscious story in the game, like, Final Fantasy or Star Wars: The Old Republic, and also have this, game where you can play all these different roles and be all these different people. It's almost like it's too much for us to take on.
Sure.
So
instead,
if you
tried to do all that, something's going to suffer and it won't be as
exactly,
good.
Yeah. So instead, what we decided to do is we go, okay, there are games out there for people who want deep storylines, right? There's tons of them. What we're going to build is a game for people who want to write their own stories.
Whoa.
And so that's really everything that we do, and all the systems that we make and all the work that we do on this game is to basically, at the end of the day, does it empower the player to tell some kind of story or do something that involves interacting with other players and make up the kind of interesting kind of interactions and things just kind of happening. So yeah, it's there, but it's not a focus, right?
I've never played a game like that.
Me either.
Every game I've ever played has always had that theme.
Yeah, the sort of the main.
Here's the story and go.
Right. You can branch off of it and do other stuff or whatever.
I've never had a game where I could just go in and make my own story.
Right.
So I start here. I'm going to kill a deer, and then I'm going to eat it, and then I'm going to go find a place where I can be an apprentice to a blacksmith. And
yeah, I would say probably the most common goal that people will have, it arises in two places. Making money. Now, you could want just enough money to have a nice house with, some nice things and be in a nice guild, or maybe you want to be rich and powerful, right? And then also fame, right? Because, you could be that guy who's known to protect the players in the server,
right.
We're not talking about thousands of players online at the same time. Right now, our server population is around 1,000 players online at one time. So it still feels like a small town compared to a lot of other games. No, but don't get me wrong. When there's 1,000 players online, the server is going to be popping with and full of people. But it's small enough to where you still can have you can make a name for yourself.
Right.
It just doesn't really exist. I mean, sure, like in WoW, people know the big raid guilds, right? But like it never really goes beyond that. Like maybe somebody would know the guild leader of one of those raid guilds, but like you don't really achieve fame in those games unless you're like, in the top 2% of the population,
Sure.
So
Speaking of raid, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that's kind of, when people get into it, at first it's very intimidating to go, well, what is the story? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I, why aren't they telling me what to do? And then, but once you get past that, it almost becomes like freeing, to say like, I can log in and just say, okay, well, maybe I am just going to hang out in town and talk to people or, go tame a horse and practice my taming a little bit. It's
right.
It gives you a lot more freedom, and it gives you just like, it just feels great when you finally get that, like, I understand what I'm supposed to do here,
No, I do. So a couple questions that came out of that. Are you guys going to have a voice chat system in the game, or will there be almost like a dedicated Discord for the game or for the servers?
Right now, we do not have any in game. It's one of those things I would like to add.
Sure.
There is a community Discord for our official server. And then there are also some Discords for, when I say community Discord, it's run by the community. We don't administer it. So, but then we also have some community servers that have their own Discords. And I know some of the bigger guilds that play tested in beta have their own Discord. So I think it's probably going to be very Discord oriented in the beginning.
That's great. So when, before we leave, if I could get that community Discord link.
Sure.
So I could post it when we post the episode to.
No problem.
Great. Because it sounds great. Now, the next thing is there going to be like a leveling system? Is it, are there going to be end game raids? How does your progression go like that?
So I mentioned the skill points.
Yep.
And you basically start with kind of a blank slate. Like in the beginning, you can pick some starting skills.
Sure.
A character creation, but what skills you train is up to you, right? So you could switch at any time. Even if you get to your 600 point skill cap, you can forget skill points and then learn them in somewhere else.
Oh, that's
cool. So that is not an XP based system. It's what we call a use based system.
Sure.
So as you swing your weapon, you have a chance to get better at it. And you get in the higher skill points, you have to fight harder monsters. Otherwise, your chance of gaining goes down quite a bit. So the idea is that you're fighting tougher and tougher things in order to continue to get decent skill gains. And so that's the skill gain progression. There's also we have a system called the prestige. Well, we call it prestige abilities. It's trained abilities. You actually do gain XP points when you kill mobs, and those XP points go towards unlocking abilities.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, so you're not really like XP towards any particular class. You just kind of have a pool of points that you can use to unlock abilities. Wow. So that's the general progression in the game.
Great. Now, will there be end game raids, or will there be something like that where you can group up with 4 people, 8 people, and go after something?
Yeah, we have a few end game kind of large group content areas in the game. So we have 2 awakening spawns. They are like world bosses, but you have to like these, the mobs spawn and you have to kill them. And then the stage progresses. It gets a little bit harder. You have to kill a bunch of those and it gets a little bit harder. And then the boss spawns. So we have a couple of those in the world. And there's loot from those bosses that you can only get from them. And then we also have the Catacombs dungeon, which is the raid dungeon, which is, it's designed for big groups. We'll also be adding more and more after we get through the early access launch.
Sure.
And then, there's definitely plenty. And what's cool about the awakening spawns is that they are in unprotected areas. But that doesn't mean the PvPers can't go there. You can team up with a PvP guild and say, you guys watch the entrance and we'll do the encounter.
Right.
That kind of thing. So even though technically you may not be skilled in PvP or even really interested in it, you can kind of work with another guild to kind of achieve that goal.
Wow, that's cool.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, man.
It's interesting. Even in beta, we did some awakening spawns where we tried, PvPers tried to gank us, and it ends up being like a bunch of people posted at the entrance, trying to keep them out while the rest of the group is fighting the boss. It's really cool. And every once in a while, the PvPers break through, and it'll be like right when the boss is going to die, and the PvPers get the kill, and get the reward, and it's like But it's part of the game, right? I mean, it's risk versus reward kind of thing. So.
Sure. What would you say? We all know, we kind of know it's an MMO, but what would you say the gameplay style is?
So the combat itself.
Well, the combat and just the game itself.
Okay. Well, I mean, the combat is designed in a turn-based MMO style. So it does play a lot like SWTOR or World of Warcraft, where you have a swing timer, and then you can also perform abilities in between or cast spells. We also have lots of usable items. So, bandages and potions, excuse me, all the things that you would expect to use in the heat of battle, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like a twitchy action combat, right? You don't aim your fireballs. You just kind of target the guy and cast your spells. So it's very tactical. It's about, using your abilities at the right times, managing your stamina, bringing the right tools to the fight, having a good balanced group, and also just working together. There's a lot of teamwork, right? Because you have to kind of focus your targets. I'm sure you guys know it's all about focusing targets, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of style.
Go ahead.
The other thing, obviously, is that it is a top-down game. So it plays a little bit. It's not like Diablo, because one of the problems with action RPGs is that the game takes over control of your character most of the time. Like, you click and he'll run there. Like, he paths to that location.
Yeah.
Now that works for action RPGs because it's very hack and slashy, where you're kill.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why PvP is very rarely good in those games, and it's because you kind of need to where you are and your engagement matters, right? It has to matter in PvP, otherwise it just ends up being a click fest. And so our controls are, while you can use WASD, it's much better to use the mouse to move around, but you don't click to move. You hold the right click and you move in the direction that your mouse is on the screen. And so what that does is it gives you really fine control over your movement and where you're standing. And the game doesn't take over for you when you try to attack something. And so it allows for the tactical combat to exist. If we had a point and click type movement, it kind of takes the tactics out. It makes it much harder to have it feel tactical.
Well, I know Marcus is going to be pumped about that when he goes to play this, because that's what he uses to move in SWTOR. Mm-hmm. I know he's all about the mouse. He hates using WASD.
Well, nice. Because you're using 1 through 10, all your F keys, whatever your key bindings are, right. And you have to walk with WASD. I walk with my mouse,
right? Yeah.
And it makes it so much easier. So that actually is a huge plus for me.
Yeah, we're going to unbind WASD. I mean, you'll be able to bind WASD to keys, but we want to get people to try mouse movement first, because we get so many new players coming to the game, and their first instinct is to use WASD, and it's not the best way to move around in our game. Right. It has a purpose, actually. It is nice, when you're in town or you're in a dungeon where you just kind of need to be able to move, take a few steps, But if you start with that and you never try the right click movement, then you'll never really give it a chance. Sure. So yeah, it's kind of a unique thing that rather than just completely disabling WASD, Albion Online is another top-down game with similar movement. They disabled WASD, and you can't even use it. But for us, we're okay, well, let's let them bind it, but we'll just, we won't have it bound by default. You'll just have to go in there and set the keys,
Right. Sure. Absolutely.
That's cool. Because I know for me in SWTOR, when I tried to do it Marcus's way, I just couldn't do it. But it sounds like if you're, correct me if I'm wrong, you said hold down the right mouse button, and then you sort of where your character moves depending on where you have the mouse cursor on the screen, right?
Right.
So I think that sounds like I could handle that.
Yeah,
it's funny. Hold both of them down and walk.
But see, I'm not coordinated enough to do both fingers at the same time, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it was too much for me, I guess. But
yeah,
that sounds pretty intuitive. I like it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. It's one of those things that was a bit of humble pie that we had to eat on the development team. Is that I came from this with a heavy Ultima Online background. I was developer, lead programmer around Ultima Online for a very long time, and so we saw how the beauty of Ultima Online and how few games were recreating it, and And that's that whole world first, game second attitude, right? And so our game is often called the spiritual successor to Ultima Online because we draw so much inspiration from there. And there's a lot of times where we go into it and we say, okay, we're going to do it better. We're going to modernize it. We started out, Shards Online had click to move movement. And we were like tried so hard to stick to it and make that the primary way of moving. And it just doesn't work in that kind of game. And so we had to fall back to, okay, let's just do it the way Ultima Online did it. And it's actually kind of like a dirty word on our team to say like, okay, let's just do it the way UO did it. But at the same time, we've learned over time that sometimes there really is only one good way to do it. And Ultima Online got it right. But just because we're doing it the way Ultima Online did it doesn't mean we're stealing from them. It's just like, well, that's just the way it feels good. You know?
Yeah.
So it was just an interesting thing because we tried so hard to fight that in the beginning, and our Shards Online, especially before we changed the name to Legends of Aria, we were constantly pushing like, okay, let's bring in modern game mechanics and try to modernize this kind of style of game. And then you end up finding out that it just a lot of times it just doesn't work. And you just have to fall back on the way it was done back in the day.
Right.
The whole point of, Shards Online, how did that come to be? And now Legends of Aria was just Shards, the working title.
Yeah.
You didn't really know.
Okay.
When did that
switch happen?
Yeah.
We'll have to go back in time a little bit. And if we kind of go back to when we first started working on Shards Online, we said we're a small team. We didn't even know at this point if we were going to get Kickstarted, right? I mean, that was like kind of one of our goals was to be on Kickstarter. But when we were designing Shards Online, we said, okay, we have no idea what kind of funds we're going to work with, but we want to bring this kind of game to the modern audience. Let's not worry too much about making a big, huge world to explore. Because we might not have the resources. We may just run out of time when we try to do that. Right. So Shards Online had this concept of these little worlds. Our first beta or alpha world was about 5 minutes run from one side to the other.
Okay.
And the idea was we're going to just create one. Okay, get that working. Okay, now create another one. Get that working. Create another one. And then we would create portals. So the idea was all these like kind of mini worlds all connected together with portals. The idea was cool, but what we discovered was that MMO players want big worlds.
Right.
If you put them in a world that takes 5 minutes to run across, they feel like they're kind of put in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you give them lots of boxes, they're still moving from one box to another. So it didn't work. I mean, it was not a viable option for an MMO, just because the audience just did not want it. They want big worlds.
Right.
And so that was ultimately the decision. We said, okay, well, we can afford, the way the crowdfunding is going, people are really understanding what we're building here. People are loving it. They're funding the team. Let's do it. Let's just go for it. And so we took that little world that takes 5 minutes to run across and we multiplied the size by like 10.
Wow.
One of the jokes that we make is like, actually, no, 10, 100. Anyway, you can fit our original Shards Online world in the lake of our new world.
How cool is that?
Just quick question. How do you know roughly how long it would take to run from like one corner of the actual Legends of Aria map to the other?
We know how long it takes on horseback. We've never actually done it on foot. I guess you got to extrapolate by figuring out the distance and difference in run speed. But if you were to run from one end to the other, it would take about a half an hour.
Whoa, that's a
big old map.
Yeah.
If you were to run it, I don't know. So we went bigger. Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. I guess so.
That's a giant map.
Yeah.
That's a lot to explore.
And so the reason for the name change was that people who knew Shards Online knew it as, oh, that's not really an MMO. That's this small game with these small worlds. And so we kind of had to make a change. We had to change the name in order for people to believe us when we said the world's much bigger. You kind of get the stigma, so changing the name was shaking the stigma. And I also, we've heard, Legends of Aria sounds cheesy because it sounds like every other game. Well, there's a reason why other games name their games the way they do, right? Because it works.
Right.
So like Legends of Aria is an MMO name. When you look at it, it sounds MMO-y. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we wanted people to look at the name and go, oh, that's an MMO. You know what I mean? And Shards Online sounded like some sort of like Minecraft-y, who knows, right? You couldn't really extrapolate what it was from the name. So we changed the name to Legends of Aria and never looked back.
Sure. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Do you guys have a rough release date in mind?
Well, actually, our early access date that we announced, we're kind of treating that like release. Because in an MMO world, once you've done your final character wipe, you're now running a live game. Right, we are now a live service. Like Legends of Aria is a live service that people expect to be running. So you kind of have to treat, and I'm pretty sure all MMOs that go early access treat their early access launch like their launch. I kind of see when we take the early access name off of Legends of Aria, it's kind of like when Google Gmail took beta off of Gmail, right? It was like, it doesn't show beta anymore, right? I mean, it's like. We've always been kind of this like slow, steady, organic growth, and that's how we've always been. I mean, we have spikes when we do releases, but if you generally plot out the curve of like the player base of our game over time, it's a very kind of smooth curve.
Right.
And we like that. We don't want to just say, okay, now we're launched, we're ready for millions of players, right? Like we want to just kind of grow organically, and that's the only way you can with a small company with no big, multi-million-dollar investors.
Sure.
No, I mean that's not, getting a publisher at some point between early access and launch is not completely out of the question, but it would have to be the right publisher and the right time. Somebody that really understands our vision is not going to, fight us on it. So it's one of those things where I'm not too concerned about when we take early access off of the game. What I'm concerned about is getting the game to the full vision of what we see Legends of Aria being. Because even with an online game, it's never done, right? But the reason why we put early access on it is because like our team is just too small to build like a AAA quality game right out the gate. It's going to take time, And so the early access thing works very well for us where we can say, okay, we're launched. It's a game. Come play it. It's amazing. It's so much fun. But you're going to hit some bugs. Don't worry about them. We'll get them fixed. That kind of
thing. And with an early access game, you guys will be able to listen to the Marcuses or the Nicks when I say, hey, I ran into Aria, northeast corner of Color Town, I'm just saying, and I ran into a bug when I was walking over the bridge. Boom. And then, it's small enough to where you guys will be able to like get to that.
Yeah.
Say, holy cow, thank you so much. Let's fix that.
Right. And I mean, that's the way we've operated all the way through. It's really funny. I've been on normal AAA projects before, and usually at this point in development, when you're like 3 or 4 months from making your like gold master is what they call it, right? The game is in shambles because you aren't doing regular releases. So you're like all these bugs are piling up over time, and you do milestones where you get these things to feature complete, and you try to get most of the showstoppers out of it, but really like all the bugs are pushed to the very end of the project. Where with us, we kind of have to knock out like the really bad bugs every release that we do, even though we treat it with just play testers and like, those releases are important to us. They're important to the players.
Right.
Even, in our closed beta, there were people taking off from work when we launched the closed beta. So even though we called them play testers and they understood that they were testing the game, they still they lived, eat, and breathed it. Right. So we couldn't just put out crap.
No, of course.
And so it really did kind of keep us honest and keep the game stable all the way through development. And it's a really great way to do game development. It's totally different from the way AAA studios do it. It's not uncommon now because there is a lot of crowdfunded projects out there. But it's great. It's really awesome.
Will the game be subscription based, or will it be purchase it and then you're done?
We are not going with a subscription mainly because we believe the subscription model for MMOs is kind of dead. Sure. Now, there are some behemoths like SWTOR that can get away with it, right? And that's just because they they're just kind of in a different class. You know what I mean? We're
it's Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Who doesn't want a lightsaber?
Right. But we don't want people who are not used to paying a subscription to look at that and go, I'm not going to play that.
Sure.
We want them to have an open mind. And so we're going to do that we'll pay for ongoing service by there will be an in-game store, no pay to win items, but there will be, stuff for sale that'll kind of keep the money flowing in between releases. And,
Sure.
We will do paid content updates down the road. We don't have any paid content updates planned yet, but we do see them in the future.
Okay.
But even our first major content update after launch, we're already starting to plan that. That's not going to be a paid update because, like we said, the vision is not quite realized. There's still a few kind of key roles that need to be there, like the Bard. And so the Rogue is like 80% there. Taming is like 80% there. So like for us to say, oh, we finished these roles and put this one role in that really needed to be there and you have to pay for that, that would be just crazy, right?
Sure.
But down the road, we do see paid content being a thing.
Great. What will the cost of the game be?
So right now, Founders Packs are $30.
Okay.
That gets you a bunch of exclusive items that will no longer be available after we launch on Steam.
Wow.
When we launch on Steam, we have not quite announced the price yet.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure out the specifics there, but it's not going to be very different from the price of the cheapest Founders Pack.
Sure. Well, you can tell us. Nobody will know.
Yeah, right. I can say that it won't be very different from the price of a cheapest Founders Pack. That's probably the most information I can give up on that.
Sure.
That's fine. Yeah,
sure.
that's fair.
Of course. Hey, you can't hate us for trying, right? Exclusive. Go ahead.
The other thing that we're giving Founders Pack purchasers, not aside from their exclusive items, is they get a 7-day head start. We're launching on Steam 7 days into the game's lifetime. So everybody who bought the game on our standalone site in advance of Steam launch will be able to play for those first 7 days.
Sure.
Is there anywhere else besides Steam that you'd be able to buy Legends of Aria?
Just right now, we're kind of going all in on Steam. Mm-hmm. It's mainly because of the size of our team. It really just makes sense to stick with one service and one platform. As we grow and as our resources grow, I would love to add additional avenues. But for right now, we're just kind of sticking with one.
That makes sense. I mean, Steam's like the biggest PC outlet that I can think of anyway.
Yeah.
That's where I would go.
I can tell you that one of the biggest mistakes that indie teams make is they try to do too much at once. And the way we've been able to be successful all the way up to here is we do it in bite sizes. We make sure that every milestone that we do is an achievable one. It's very easy to fall into the trap of, wouldn't it be great if we were on Good Old Games and this platform? It's just like, it's one of those things you just kind of have to like, wait a minute, let's just be real here. What can we actually accomplish?
Right. Yeah, we found something similar with the podcast. We want to get out and branch out and do all these kinds of things, but it's like, how big can we get before it's unmanageable for us with our schedules and without sacrificing quality of stuff,
Yeah, I guess it's a good guiding principle in life in general, but I feel like when you're working for a AAA studio, the budget is so much bigger, and and the team is so much bigger that you can kind of take on the world all at once and actually sometimes come out on ahead. But yeah, we have to have a different approach. The smaller you are, the more scrappy you have to be.
So I can't wait to play this game. So after talking to you today, makes me want to play the game, because now I just want to be, I'm going to call it the tinkerer. I just want to make things and sell it. Yeah, I don't even care if I want to kill deer, of course, and rabbits. Maybe a bear. Like a bear would be cool to kill.
Right. I mean, that's a totally viable strategy.
Yeah, but just so I can eat. But I just definitely want to make stuff and sell it. I'm totally into this.
There's a whole side to this project that we haven't even scratched the surface on. And I know we're kind of going a little bit longer. But I have to at least give you guys a little bit of a taste of it. It's not something that we heavily focus on in our marketing, mainly because, again, that whole bite-sized strategy, take on goals that you can achieve. And the one that we're focusing on right now is the base game that is Legends of Aria. But there is this whole other side to our project, which is the fact that the game is fully moddable and players can run community servers. This makes for worlds of possibilities. There are a few community servers out there already. These are guys that helped us crowdfund way early in the beginning. Actually, also we're starting to accept applications for new admins. I think we've let in 4 or 5 new admins since we opened up the program. But we're being very careful with it and very closed with it in the sense that like we don't want to stretch ourselves too thin. But the potential for these community servers to go and just do amazing things is completely and totally there. One of the community servers has an actual like population, and like they have a huge Discord, and they have tons of players, and these people like live, eat, and breathe that server. And like this is just the beginning. We're not even launched yet. So I mean, like I can't even imagine if you look like 3 years down the road what these community servers are going to be doing. I mean, I really definitely see a place for the hardcore RPers, you know, where you can't kill somebody unless you had a reason to kill him. There's actually a server like that in our game. One of the community servers has like really hardcore RP rules, you know. Then there'd be like the hardcore PvP ones where there is no guarded zones and there is no karma system, and it is just kind of a free for all. I mean, like
Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I mean, and they even go so far as to make their own maps. And we've set up our moddable servers in a way where like a group of admins can get together and you say, okay, I'm going to build this world, you're going to build this world, but we're going to host them on the same server, and we can actually allow our players to travel between them. And so it's going to make we call them clusters, where you take these multiple worlds and you kind of put them together on one server. And like the possibilities are completely just way out there. And it's such a cool thing. Like every time I think about it, I get a little teary-eyed, but it's one of those things where we need to make sure the foundation is there first. We need to make sure there's a solid game, because nobody's going to mod a game that's not fun. Nobody's going to look at this if Legends of Aria by itself is not a success. And so that's why we've gone all in on the base game. That December 4th is all about Legends of Aria. The community servers are there. We support them. We love them. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the game is great and successful first. And then we go, okay, now we have the resources to really empower these devs, these guys that are, you know, just love to make their own servers, and give them the power to make really, really cool stuff too. So like, it's almost like 2 projects in one. And it's so cool.
Well, you know, something that is awesome, because really, truly, with an MMO, people consume content faster than you guys can make it. So
that's true.
You know, when Star Wars was released, people were crushing the all of the content so fast, and they're like, okay, when's the expansion coming? And they're like, what? We released the game 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You know, look at Battle for Azeroth, for Warcraft, and that's just an example. I read these Twitter posts on how they released this, and now people are bored because they've already done everything they need to do because they've consumed all their content. Mm-hmm. Where you guys now, you have this moddable content. Now, me and Nick, we're a bunch of idiots, but you know, we want to create a map and like go into it and do that, and we can mod it. We could spend 6 months making a map. Right. Totally. And then run it, and next thing you know, Derek Brinkman pops in with the dev team's like, hey, this map is pretty terrible, but let's fix this, and this, and let's put it on the real thing. Thanks, guys. You know, the potential that's there is so awesome, and it's
huge.
And it's welcoming that you guys are allowing gamers to do that to your game. Because, you know, some of these people that don't do it, they're just closed-minded, and they're afraid of what happens.
Right.
You know, it doesn't fall out.
A AAA studio would never build this.
Right.
I've approached AAA publishers with this idea, and they actually consider the moddability of the game a liability. And the moment one of them says that, I'm like, I just kind of, you know, I'm like, okay, we're not going to work together.
Right. It's not a liability as long as you tag it
as,
hey,
this is potential.
Right. As long as you tag it as, hey, this was user created, or like this is a mod. Like, you know, any gamer is going to go into it with that expectation of, hey, this might have bugs, this might not be created perfectly, whatever. You know what I mean? People are going to be thankful that they have this additional content. You know what I mean? And the dev team didn't have to, you know, pour their blood, sweat, and tears into it necessarily.
What if I don't like the inventory? What if I don't like the inventory system?
Right.
And I create an inventory system, and the Legends of Aria team are like, wow, this inventory system's awesome. Yeah. Let's just use that.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then boom. And
possible.
they just did work for you and improved the game. Who cares?
I would say that the biggest worry that people have when they hear about this is they go, oh, well, you're going to fracture the community. You're going to have people playing on all these different servers. It's not the case. It's definitely not what we've seen in beta. What ends up happening is these servers have their own communities. And it's not that they steal from, like, everybody kind of builds their own communities and they kind of build them on their own, right? So, like the people who play on the LOU server, they play LOU. The people who play live. Like, they kind of draw their own audience just by their own talking up of their own server, where we talk up the base game, right?
Yeah, but,
I don't see it as a competition so much as everybody has their own communities and we all kind of live under the same roof,
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
For as a development team, you guys, you may care, or I look at it as, I don't care what server you're on as long as you're playing our game. Do whatever you want as long as you're playing our game. And oh wow, you just released the Deer Master's mask because you just killed 100 deer, and now I can buy it because I killed 100 deer, and now I can wear it. What do I care whether I'm wearing it in the game or on my special server?
Right, yeah.
And I'll admit, we do keep some assets for our official server. And, the admins might look at it and go, well, that's not fair. Why don't you just give us everything? Well, it's like, well, you guys have assets that we don't have too, right? I mean, you guys are making all this stuff. We don't, So, like, I think that ultimately they do understand why we do it. The initial reaction is like, hey, I want that. But they do understand that, like, we do need to be unique, and we do need to have our own offering. And so we do that by offering some official assets that are only existing on our official servers. And, but we empower them to make their own items and their own stuff on their servers. So they have the ability to do what they want,
Right.
So it kind of works both ways.
Absolutely.
This is fascinating. I want to play now. I'm really excited to play now.
Me too.
I had a lot of fun talking with you guys.
Awesome. So first of all, can you tell everybody when the early access comes out again, and all that information, please?
Yeah, so we announced today that our early access will begin on December 4th. Anybody who owns, anyone who owns a Founders Pack will be able to play 7 days in advance. I believe that falls on November 27th. And so there will be no NDA during that 7-day period. It'll just be people who did not buy the game on Steam or buying it directly from us and are buying a Founders Pack. And so Founders Packs range from $30 to I think 90, something like that. And it's all really cool exclusive items that you won't get if you buy the game on Steam. Now, trust me, there's still plenty of really awesome items for you to go and to achieve through gameplay. But these items particularly are the things we're making sure go to the people that helped us make the game possible. So go if it sounds interesting and you want to check it out. Go and buy a Founders Pack, and you'll get access to that 7-day head start, and it'll be worth it for sure.
So where can people go to find you guys, or where can they go and buy a Founders Pack?
Sure. I mean, our website is legends-of-aria.com. That would be pretty much the nexus of all information about the game. We do have a Facebook page and a Twitter page, but we try to make sure people who are interested about our game can get everything they need to know right off of our website.
Great.
Perfect.
And where can they find you if they want to talk to you more?
I do pop my head in the community Discord from time to time. I do lurk a lot in there. But it's one of those things where the people who are in the community Discord definitely know me enough so that, I try not to make it so that they can just like summon me at any time, because otherwise I'd be in Discord all day, every day.
Right.
But yeah, I do lurk there, and I read every forum post. I don't necessarily reply to everyone, but our team prowls the forums for information on how to make the game better. So that's definitely a big source of communication between the dev team and the player base.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Derek, thanks so much, man.
No problem.
It was awesome playing at PAX, and hopefully
we'll be at PAX. We haven't committed to it yet, but I'm going to do everything I can to be at PAX this year as well. We just love it so much. It's so much fun, and it's really great to get FaceTime with people. So we're gonna do our best to be there again this year.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely be there.
Definitely be there. We're gonna try to have a little more officialness, I guess you should say.
Cool. Yeah, I'm hoping to have a little bit more time, so when we come, I can push you out of the way and sit in front of the computer for a little while longer.
Right.
Log into my tune and just run
Well,
around.
by that point, the game will be launched. So you guys just play all you want, and when you come there, you actually want to be talking to me.
That's
exactly.
true.
Yeah, that is true. Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks
Cool.
again.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
What are you guys talking about in here?
Find out next episode of Working Class Nerds.